Hi, everybody. My name is Oz Perkins. I wrote and directed this movie. So let's do this thing. I feel like we have a relatively modest assortment of company graphics before the movie. Sometimes it really gets painful, doesn't it? How's that? Okay. For the longest time, I've thought of this movie as being sort of a pop horror movie. And I suppose by that I mean that it's a horror movie that knows it's a horror movie. And there's supposed to be sort of a modern quality to that. These big red squares at the beginning of the movie feel pop to me. Joseph Albers is always sort of an inspiration for things that are visual. Warhol and these big red squares at the top of the picture felt sort of iconic and pointing to the horror genre in a way that's about as simple as you can get, about as reduced as you can get. It's not often that you get footage or you put together a scene that looks and feels like you thought it would. Or that when I'm writing this movie, this was always the opening shot. And it always, in my mind's eye, looked just like this. It's weird when that happens. It's, like I say, it's uncommon, but in this case, we got it. It's derived from the drive up to my house in Cape Cod, where I spent all of my summers as a kid. House does not look unlike that place. The snowy element here was just one of these things that was sort of meant to be. We had Nick Cage in the movie for 2 weeks, and all this snowy stuff was shot on a Tuesday. We were supposed to shoot his first day on a Monday, but for whatever reason, things get sort of switched around at the last minute. We pushed his first day to Tuesday, and overnight on Monday it snowed. And it was the only time it snowed during the making of the movie. So we got this really pretty magnificent look on the day we needed it, and only on the day that we needed it. Spent a lot of time in movies doing ridiculous things like using VFX to paint out footprints. So there was a bunch of footprints all around. You do 5 takes of something. She walks through the footprints and she makes new footprints, and then there need to be no footprints, and so you spend time and money just taking them out. Her jacket here is derived from David Cronenberg's The Brood. All those little mutant broodlings all wear those funny kind of 80s red snow jackets, or different primary colored snow jackets. So we
wore my long legs today.
We stole that look for this. What happened? I'll talk about Cage's look a little bit later, but likewise, this T-Rex song was always the song. Really early in the writing of the script, this was the song that I had in my mind, and I didn't know anything about T-Rex until right around I started writing this movie. It's funny how these things happen and how they contribute to your understanding of the work that you're doing. It's like the universe just gives you what it gives you. And for whatever reason, I had watched this documentary called 1971 that was about that year in music, and everything that happened, and there was T-Rex, and I kind of had heard the name before, but I'd never heard the music. And then I heard the music, and I loved the music, and then it became something I was listening to all the time, and then it just became part of the fabric of thought and the fabric of creation, and then it just works its way in. And then the first time I talked to Nick on the phone, we first met the first time, I don't like to be full of shit. I don't like to like beat around the bush. I like to sort of tell people what I know. And I told Nick right up front, I said, well, it's T-Rex. And he said, it's the weirdest thing. He was just the day before talking to his son who was learning how to play guitar.
All right, kids.
He was talking to his son about T-Rex, about a backwards guitar solo in a song called, boy, I should know the name of that. And one day I will think of it, and you can look it up for yourselves.
So no one gets hurt feelings.
Cosmic Dancer.
Like to visit a certain kind of neighborhood.
So in keeping with the pop horror movie feeling or intention that we were using here, this is just Silence of the Lambs, right? It's like using Silence of the Lambs as a way into a movie and making no bones about it, really. It's not pretending to not be Silence of the Lambs. It's sort of pretending to be Silence of the Lambs.
I am good to be the one who goes up and knocks if you want to be the one who hangs back. Hucker, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
This is the first thing we shot. And it's funny, looking at it, you remember how little that you knew about any of this, about what Lee Harker was like, or what Micah Monroe as Lee Harker was going to be like. It's all new. You can't, there's very little rehearsal baked into the pre-production schedules of modestly sized movies. And even if you did rehearse it, you wouldn't know how she's going to walk like this, and you wouldn't know the way she's going to take in the world around her, I don't think. So you find yourself on the first day, it's like trial by fire. You're expected to kind of learn and absorb as much as you can, and really trust that the actor is prepared, which of course in this case, everybody was. More in the land of sort of silly ways that VFX makes its presence known in your movie. She had a bunch of earrings. Micah did.
Why'd you say that?
And I didn't see it until day one here on the monitor. I was like, wait a minute, she's got a bunch of earrings going up the side of her ear there. And a FBI agent in 1992 certainly wouldn't.
Just relax.
So we took those out. Sometimes VFX is putting a dinosaur in, and sometimes it's taking an earring out. It's funny, you get to these locations, and it's a sort of a gated community. I think it's for older people, and it's like everything's about people and the people who you're dealing with, and some people really want you to be in their houses making movies, and some people really don't want you in their houses making movies, and you end up sort of scouting the friendlies. And in this case, this person was really into it, and this house is not the same as the house we were just outside of. It's a house on in the same enclave of houses, but it's a different spot. We screened this movie in Burbank for a test audience. And someone in the audience was like, "Well, I didn't like the beginning. She's going in the house with this thing, and she doesn't check her 4, 6, and 3 zones," or something like that, they said. And they obviously knew more about being an FBI agent than I know. I don't know anything. So It's part of the fun of my job is that you can sort of, if you fake it well enough, it's sort of like a fun kind of trick that you do. But in this case, the guy knew about the 4, 6, and 3 zones or something that I had no idea about. Squares, again, Joseph Albers. When I'm talking to the art department about what these slides should look like that she's being tested with, Joseph Albers is the name that comes to mind.
Ready to begin what?
The voice there is this guy Stephen Grobe, who's one of the assistant editors, and he did the voice in the editing room, just sort of as temp, as a temporary fix, and it was good. Kept it. I ended up driving this car off of the set. I still have it.
No, sir.
It's a 1990 Crown Victoria.
Talk to someone about the beautiful man.
It's funny. It used to be I need to talk to someone about my awful Mariners, crummy Mariners, something negative about the Mariners. And part of the process in pre-production is that the script is kind of, the legal department goes through the script and sees if there's anything that they can't say or can't use, or names we need to clear, or places we can't say, or song titles we need to pay for, or whatever it is. And it came, Lousy Mariners is what it was. And it came back as you can't call the Mariners lousy. In 1992, they were good. You can't, I was like, can't I especially call them lousy if they were good? But no. I really wanted that pink flamingo sort of lawn ornament thing. It belonged to one of the other houses. It wasn't there. I had to go ask if we could use the pink flamingo, and the neighbor said, "Yeah, you can use it. Can we eat lunch? Can we eat the lunch off the catering truck?" I don't remember how he handled that. I think we probably let them have lunch.
How many wounds?
You can put it in the file.
The great Blair Underwood.
You said 4 were murdered.
I mean, this guy
I don't understand.
Neither do.
is just on automatic. I mean, he doesn't miss a beat. He doesn't miss a word. Super clear. I think it comes from just having a lot of what doesn't come from having a lot of experience, right? But he had a lot of experience on television, especially, I think, when you have a kind of a long run on a popular TV show called LA Law. I think you just get in the habit. You get in good habits. You know where the camera is. You know how to say your lines. You know how to position words. You know the cadence of things. You know the rhythm of things. You know how to leave space for other actors. You know how to be generous to other actors. He's a wonder.
There you go, Harker.
Someone in the test audience said, either this movie takes place in the 90s or this guy just really likes Clinton.
Tell me your version.
Originally, it was written as, I guess it turned out to be 1993. It was written as 1992, and I changed it to 93 when I realized that it would have to be George Bush. If it was 92, we'd have to be looking at fucking pictures of George Bush all the time, so I just nudged it, and you get Brother Bill in there instead.
From time to time, sir.
And again, this is not even pretending to not be Silence of the Lambs. Crawford, played by Scott Glenn, has just been turned here into Carter, played by Blair Underwood, and this moment is just the moment where she first sees the Buffalo Bill clippings and asks him why they gave Buffalo Bill that nickname.
Good question.
And I think the reason why I did it like that is, I mean, I suppose I should know the reason I did it like that, but a lot of this stuff is you kind of don't overthink things too much. You sort of have an idea and you like it enough and you kind of go along with it. It's like filling out a crossword puzzle. You're pretty sure that 17 across is that. And if you don't make a guess and commit, you kind of never going to get 10 down. So I liked that I was sort of aping Silence of the Lambs. It felt like a good way into an otherwise pretty non-traditional movie. You'll see in the back left here, the devil. And it's the first time you'll see the devil. He's standing next to an American flag. It's the first time in the picture you see him or it or them. I don't know how the devil identifies. But he's there. These red eyes, it's an easy one, right? That's a cheap trick. Might as well put red eyes on everybody because that's how it sometimes, there's your devil on the left. All this stuff, all these materials, all these Polaroids, these photographs, all these things, we made all these things, obviously. And we took all the pictures in one day at this great house in Vancouver that we found with, again, someone who was just sort of into it. The owner, the homeowner's like, yeah, sounds good. Let's do it. So we kind of went room to room and put things on the floor and hung birthday banners and put bloody knives and took pictures of families in the driveway and balloons and all this stuff. It was all done on a single day in a single place. Sort of had some disposable cameras, some old, Fuji automatic cameras, some Polaroid cameras. And everybody just kind of went around like it was like a scavenger hunt, looking for good shots.
Harker. There's such a thing as looking too long.
I must have lost track of time.
I'm still thirsty. You thirsty? Come on, let's go for a drink.
You'll have to excuse me. It's late and I don't drink.
You don't drink, you're right.
I like the quality of,
Well, you tell me.
I mean, it's not complicated. It's not complex. It's not especially deep, as my 15-year-old daughter would say. It's not so deep, Dad. But just the idea that Carter is affected by this stuff. He doesn't like dead families. These stewardesses in the back, we dressed 100 stewardesses, flight attendants, I suppose is the word, and had a good time with 1993 flight attendant outfits, these kind of capes that they're wearing over here, and these wonderful hats.
From the family's toolbox.
It's the little things and they got some. They're walking out there with a pilot. You're asked as the director at a certain point in pre-production, how many extras do you want for this scene? How many extras do you want for that scene? And for the bar, I was like, well, I feel like it's an airport bar, and I feel like it's pilots and flight attendants, his cabin crew.
Tells the families what he wants them to do.
They're smoking cigarettes too. You can't tell, but I can sort of see her do a little ashtray trick there.
Wow, that reads like a page out of Manson.
And again, saying things, oh, Manson, you say Charles Manson. It's kind of like serial killers for dummies, right? It's like everything, coded messages. You got Charles Manson, you got Silence of the Lambs, you got Buffalo Bill, it's kind of taking the audience by the hand and being like, it's all this stuff that you already know about. You use it as shorthand. I hope it puts the audience in a certain kind of susceptible state where they're comfortable with what's happening, and it's familiar enough. It's sort of weird, but it's weirdly familiar, but it's still familiarly weird. What is this? Like, I know this stuff. I've heard of Charles Manson.
All right, Harker.
I'm into this.
Do I have to?
Yeah.
I kind of didn't expect. I didn't think about it. I didn't expect Harker to be such a funny character to me. I laughed all the whole time we were in this house doing this on this night with Micah. I just laughed all the time. I thought that what she was giving as the awkward,
way past my bedtime.
sort of. I mean, she couldn't be more out of place.
Hello.
Oh, hey, this is Agent Lee Harker. Harker? It's my beautiful wife, Vanna, and
It's just a brilliant piece of acting. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't have any dialogue here. She's just showing so much.
Do you want to see my room?
The idea here was to say she didn't have a childhood. She's completely uncomfortable in the room of a child because she was never a child, and that's sort of a hint as to what we saw previously with the little girl. We don't yet quite know that that was her when she was a kid. We kind of do because we've seen enough movies.
What about that thing? Do you go in it?
But just things like that, where it's like, what does it mean to be a child? And
And they live in a box with their
the idea that Lee Harker doesn't know or doesn't remember, has no connection with her childhood. It's like another planet. That thing, do you go in it? It's like it's a princess tent, but it could be a rocket ship for all she knows.
No. I actually wanted to be an actress.
That messes up kids.
So they say.
Is it scary being a lady FBI agent?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
She gives a look here to the mother.
I'm sure Agent Harker's got a lot of very important
This
work to do.
so touching.
And Miss Ruby
She's a
Collins.
great actor.
Well,
Micah Monroe, great actor.
Didn't you come to my birthday party?
I love that look too. Like, oh Jesus, you're inviting this weird cop to your birthday party? Okay, well, you're the kid. Whatever says goes.
I'll be there.
You're damn right she'll be there. It's going to be a bad scene, but she'll be there. Song playing here on the radio is written and performed by my wife, Melody. Really, we used it. It let Harker be human for a minute. She listens to music. There was earlier in one of the cuts, it was just news or some garbled kind of talk radio or something that sort of said, "Oh, she doesn't have anything. She doesn't listen to things. She's not connected. She's But then when you put a song in, especially an original song, all of a sudden she has a little bit of life to her. She's not quite as detached or cut off or kind of floating through spaces. So you sort of thought she was. It gives you an extra dimension. It's amazing how a little choice in the editing room or in the sound mix like that can enrich a character, your experience of a character so much. In an early cut of this, she had the TV on. You could hear that she was one of these people who leaves the television on when she's not home. It was actually, we temped in a little bit of Seinfeld. I told her you were a marine biologist. The marine biologist portion of Seinfeld was in there, and we couldn't pay for that. And we took it out. She doesn't have anything going on in her house, so.
Hi, Mom.
Lee?
Yep, still only me. Are you okay?
Yep.
First time we experience Alicia Witt as her mom in this. Kind of the voice on the phone and
You have to let the phone ring so long.
awkward spacing and cadence in her speech and how long she takes to answer questions on the phone. Just one of these people who sort of has an off rhythm.
It's a lot in my Work stuff.
Nasty stuff.
Yeah.
Want to tell me about
No. No.
Don't forget, I was a nurse for 8 years. Then nasty.
It's not my
I think I just...
greatest piece of screenwriting ever. You know, every once in a while you'll slip in a piece of exposition and you try not to make it sound too much like an exposition, but then every once in a while it gets past you and you have an actor say something like, "Don't forget, I was a nurse for 8 years."
Honey? Still there?
Bob, I gotta go. I'll call you back, okay?
In the world of making horror pictures nowadays, and I guess it's been this way for a little while, you know, jump scares, right? Like jump scares somehow equal ticket sales, or jump scares somehow equal audience enjoyment, and that's obviously correct. I mean, there's plenty of metrics and economics to prove that that's true. I wouldn't go so far as to say I don't know how to do them. I don't give a shit about them, so I don't do them. And so we, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that it doesn't come naturally. It's not the kind of thing that I go for. So a lot of the times I'm trying to create jumpy environments, lead ups to jumps. And I'll be honest, those things need to be helped in the editing room a lot. There's the devil again. That's a sort of a more obvious one. That's not Nick Cage. This was before Nick got to us. That's a guy in a Nick Cage suit and a wig. And it's funny also because this is before Nick came, so I didn't know what Nick was going to walk like. I didn't know how Longlegs was going to walk. And so when you've got this guy, he does this. It's good enough. You know, it's not how Nick Cage walks. It's not how Dale Cobble walks or how Longlegs walks ultimately in the picture, but we also don't see too much of him walking. So it ends up being okay, but it's just one of these weird things where your titular character, you're shooting a guy who's not the actor a week before the actor is going to arrive. You don't know how they move. You do your best. Of course, if your movie has a $200 million budget, and you're shooting for 200 days or whatever it is, everything's, you know, pre-vised a lot better than that. But when you're making modest-sized movies like this one, sometimes you're faced with these weird things and you just sort of have to deal with them. Right? Like, I don't make jump scares, but I put a jumpy sound over the title card in hopes that it'll sort of do something, and it does. And it does. Just a beautiful, humorous thing done by the art department. The kind of bashful cat with the 9 with its sort of mouth on it. Got another little editorial jump scare coming here. that it doesn't exist, right, until you're in the editing room and the editor does it. It's not a thing. It doesn't really make that sound when she puts her fist down, but it does in our movie. During pre-production, one of the things that really did get better, and a lot of things get better about the movie, obviously, when you're in pre-production, you're prepping with a group full of, inspired artists, heads of departments, everybody working together towards a vision. With so much of the kind of mythology, I suppose you'd say, or the methodology around what was happening, the number of deaths, the dates, the sixes, the codes, all those things. Producer Dan Kagan and I spent a lot of time, many, many long nights, making that stuff better in the script, articulating the steps more, making the code develop in a better way, but making the sixes translate in a better way, making the triangle clearer. A lot of I got to hand it to Dan Kagan for a lot of that. He was very invested in really piecing that stuff out. My take on it was much sort of more approximate. Dan's was very deliberate, and it really helped, I think, make the mystery richer and the payoffs richer. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to kind of get from payoff to payoff.
We're real late on this one. Look like the family's planning a trip. Friends assume they're gone, so don't bother to check in on them. Found plane tickets for Los Angeles and reservations for Disneyland. Sounds like a nice idea.
The girl's birthday was the 14th.
Seems like it.
And this is all sort of, in keeping with the pop horror movie aspect. This is Seven, it's kind of the killer, too slow. It's a little toying. It's a little that sort of cat and mouse thing. And then getting into the bedroom and finding something, victims that have been there for a long time and you weren't supposed to find them until you were supposed to find them, kind of a thing is really just a,
kitchen knife in his hand. His wounds look
felt a lot like Seven to me. On purpose.
This is everyone else here, and it's not great.
How long ago?
I'd say about a month.
Jesus.
Some of the image that
Are you sure?
our DP, our director of photography, Andres Orochi, was able to generate and sort of manifest is really breathtaking. A lot of tone and tonality is really so accomplished. I mean, this shot of Carter here at this, I mean, that's about as good as you're going to get a picture to look. I think we have another devil coming up here in the window, I think, on the left. We come back to this shot at one point. I think he's there.
Yes. Still your only daughter. Anyways, I was calling to let you know that I'm going to be busy now with work. I probably won't be able to make it. I want to, it's just... Mom, are you still there?
Be careful they don't work you too hard, alright?
Yeah, but it's...
I don't know what my thing is with payphones. There's a lot of I have a lot of payphones. There's a lot of payphones, obviously, in Black Coat's Daughter. A lot of kind of things happen over the payphone. This feels like that again. And I don't, it doesn't feel like I'm running thin on ideas or anything. It just feels like motifs that for some reason sort of worm their way in I don't know that I have much context with payphones. There's a payphone in the lobby of my dorm building when I was a freshman in college, and it was the first time that I was away from home, and there's sort of a lot going on in my house at the time, and my dad and stuff, and maybe it's that. Maybe I was on the payphone a lot at a sort of a crucial time in my life when things were changing. Microfiche. Nothing says the 90s like microfiche. Yeah, so this stuff, I can't take credit for it. I just can't. Dan Kagan, super producer, creative dude, was like, we got to make this stuff better. There's got to be more of it. It's got to connect more. It's got to pay off more. It's got to be clearer what's happening. The sequence of things, why these dates matter, why, what's it all leading towards. And he was totally right. It's one of the better parts in the movie. It's one of the more sort of satisfying transitions into a new swath of material. Is this whole upside down triangle thing? Not in the original script. I didn't know about this. This came out of the development with the producer.
Help me out here.
Either it's the 90s or this guy just really likes Bill Clinton.
His algorithm.
Help me out.
The first murder happens on July 14th, 1966. The rest occur within 6 days of the daughters' birthdays, either before or after.
He's got a little silver ball there on his desk. I don't remember what the idea was or why we had it, or if it was just sort of something that happened. I think it was just sort of something that happened. I don't even necessarily think we were making a connection to it, but he does have a little silver ball on his desk.
Where X's mark the spot.
He opens the thing here and there's these papers. This is a wonder of VFX for me also. Like, there was nothing in there when we shot it. There were these black pages with little dots on them because they were supposed to be morgue photographs of the camera family. But we never got those morgue photographs to put them in there, and so they just put files in there. But of all the things that impressed me, the fact that there's paperwork inside this folder when there were really just black sheets of paper kind of blows me away.
I believe Longlegs was at the camera family farm. And it's possible that Carrie Ann saw him.
It's funny the things that end up confusing people, like the fact that I use the name Camera as a last name. People were like, huh? And I was like, yeah, no, it's weird, right? I was reading some book and there's some character and their last name was Camera, and I thought it was cool and I did it. And then of course you realize that you put it into a movie where there's all kinds of photographs and pictures and things, and it's a movie and people are talking a lot and there's a lot of information being given, and you say something like Camera Family and people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? There was some talk of changing it, but as you can see, we didn't change it. Put these thunderbursts, you put those in later, those don't exist. There was a plane flying through here, we took that out. This is the first thing we shot with Blair. And again, it's one of those weird things. I'd never met the guy. Talked to him on the phone a couple times, FaceTime.
It's over there.
never met him in person. Then you meet him in person, and the sky's getting dark, and you're literally losing daylight, and you have to shoot, or everything will be pitch dark, and there's no time. So you give the guy a flashlight, you put him in the car. Hi, this is Micah Monroe. All right, good, and action.
X has marked the spot.
It's a great feeling when you're directing a movie and you have these little moments of insight where you sort of really connect to the fact that hundreds of people are working and doing their best, and they're working their hardest and coming up with ideas even when you're not asking them to. And people take it upon themselves to do the best work that they can. I mean, of course, it should go without saying, but every once in a while you sort of connect to that, and it's really pleasing. These flashlights are an example of that. They shine these flashlights, and we made these flashlights. These flashlights were made by the gaffer and the DP to look a certain way. The light, the quality of the light, the color of the light. It's all specific, and I didn't ask for it. I didn't say I want special flashlights, but they had them because they care about the movie. I mean, it's kind of like no duh, but believe me, it's easy as a director to become sort of, I don't want to say tunnel visioned, but there's only so much you can think about. And so when someone in a different department rises up and just nails an element of your movie that you didn't think about, it's a great feeling. It happens 1,000 times on every movie, needless to say. This next bit is funny. You watch it and it's so quiet and calm. This next bit here when we're upstairs in the barn, I didn't know, I hadn't thought about it, or I had never really been told about it, but when you use lifts in a movie, these huge scissor lifts you see on construction sites and things, these huge lifts that go way up, they go, 100 feet up in the air, and you got to crank them up there, and there's a light on the lift, and it's pointed at a thing. Not only is there a light on the lift, but there's a human being on the lift. And oftentimes, you'll send a lift up there with a light, and it'll just be up there for 9 hours or something like that with a person on it. So there's a person on each of these lifts out here with these lights coming through these windows in this really calm and beautiful, placid, eerie, still kind of vibe. Turns out the guys out there were being lashed by rain and wind, and were sort of making out their wills, wondering if they'd ever see, dry ground again. And here are these actors just doing this beautiful, nuanced, quiet work while it's basically, Shakespeare's The Tempest out there. And these two guys are holding on for dear life. Spencer and Gareth. That's not behind the scenes of making a movie. I don't know what it is. Yeah. So Blair, being the actor that I mentioned before, just sort of an all-star. He did everything perfectly every time. And you're like, here, take these. It's floorboards. You got to take the floorboards off. You got to move the floorboards over. You got to flip the floorboard thing. You got to get the thing. You got to open it's all this business to do. He's never done any of it. He's never taken the floor apart. He's never seen any of this shit before the day he gets there, or before the minute he gets there. And he does this wonderful stuff with it on every take. If you go back and watch it, he flips the floorboards in his hands. He does all this sort of really gorgeous, articulate work with his hands. It's just beautiful physical acting, and it should never be taken for granted.
What about the ball
then? It was inside the head. So I've been calling it the brain. It's hollow, empty of object or matter. But listen.
Snake stuff, we shot all this stuff out at this place outside of Vancouver where they have reptiles. We shot them in a box. And they were originally went at the beginning of the movie. There was sort of a snake montage thing that sort of felt like heavy metal, rock and roll to me. And we ended up not using it there, but the snakes were such nice pieces that we found other places for them.
I know you're not afraid of a little bit of dark. Because you're the dark.
So by the time you're watching this movie, you've presumably seen the picture before. You're not just watching this without having seen that. So I'm not spoiling things for you, presumably. But this set, which in the world of the movie is, of course, under Harker's mom's house. In reality, it's under the camera family farmhouse. So that farmhouse that they drove up to before, which is where we shot all the interiors of the camera family massacre with the axe later. His workshop is under there. Possibly my favorite part of the movie right here. A lot of this stuff is written on the page. His face being cut by shadow like that is definitely in the script. This is my daughter. This is Beatrix Perkins. Came to Vancouver to do a little part in the movie and found herself one-on-one opposite Nicolas Cage. Did she think it was a big deal to be opposite Nicolas Cage? I don't think it occurred. I don't think she thought of it that way. I think she just thought of it as something that was great to do. And, I made a point, of course, of showing my kids movies their whole lives. And so she knew Nicolas Cage probably from Raising Arizona. And this is a far cry from that.
What day is your birthday, little angel?
Daddy! That gross guy is back again!
It's exciting, obviously, when you write a script and you get someone like Nick on board. I mean, those words were written by me in the script, but they certainly weren't written to be performed that way. He did that.
She gets a visitor, and I've never seen that happen either. And someone flipped a switch on the back of her head.
Comedy,
all of a sudden,
in the context of all this, is important to me. I think it's to take the edge off of the of the darkness, but it's just to sort of to keep things smart. If you find yourself sinking into these self-serious holes, you start to feel kind of stupid. I think when you're able to laugh about what you're doing, you kind of reset your intelligence a little bit. And
it does sound like a good idea.
Just the idea that this guy's the worst possible person for the job. They really could have used his help here. The killer was there, but he might as well have not been. This guy has nothing to give.
Taking the time to talk to me today.
Kiki Shipka. Kiki, of course, was in Blackcoat's Daughter, which is, so when I called her to say, would you come and just do a day for us? She's pretty happy to come and visit. She's, talk about a boss. She's such a badass. Kiernan Shipka is fearless,
So it's like you anyway.
Just so brave as a person and as a performer. I think she's so great.
How are you feeling today, Carrie?
We pitched her voice up, so it sounds higher than her regular speaking voice does.
It's like a long dream. And so dark. A world of dark. Like a nowhere. Between here and there. What's that called? Doing the limbo.
And before the long dream, do you remember anything? Do you remember coming here? Do you remember your parents?
Making a movie, a lot of the aspects of making a movie are ridiculous. We waited a long time for that school bus, and that's all we shot it. It's sort of a yellow smear down the road. It could have been someone holding up a yellow piece of paper.
Mom always hated me because I'd come out wrongly when I was born.
Turns out cesarean section scars, C-section scars went up and down in the 70s. The idea is that these dolls bring out the worst aspect. All right, so there's Richard Nixon. So I had Clinton all through the movie, and then when I was cutting the movie, we didn't have Nixon. Nixon wasn't there when we shot the scene. There's a coat rack where Nixon was, and I thought it was funny to put. We had so much Clinton to put Nixon there, and it reminded me of the great Hal Ashby's movie Harold and Maude, where every time you go into a different office, you've got a framed picture of the iconic person related to that office. Like he goes to the shrink, and there's a Sigmund Freud. We did all this in one take, and I cast all stunt performers. These are all stunt actors to do this because it's this ballet of timing. And the guy playing the father, I think he was a UFC fighter, maybe. And when you're dealing with stunt people, it's really gratifying, and you can't trust anybody more than you can trust a stunt person to nail the thing, because if you think about it, that's their livelihood, right? They don't, oh, whoops, I didn't I didn't fall through the stairs correctly. I didn't break that thing over that guy's head. You can't, there's no such thing as doing the stunt wrong. That'll end real bad. So when you hire stunt people to do anything, they do it, and they do it really well on the first try. That's their art. And so, as a director, when you hire stunt people to do anything, it's really sort of, you kind of take your hands off the wheel because you know they're going to nail it.
Right here in this room with my bare hand, I'd surely do. Just happy as peaches to watch your heavy heart go pop, pop, and your eyes is to go all to blood.
So Kiernan just got handed this scene with this dialect. It's not even a dialect. It's not regional or anything the way she talks. It's just the dialect of having your head kind of fucked.
And you don't remember it either. You dirty, flirty old angel bitch.
All the words are written, all the weird things that she says, all the misuse of words, all the wrong grammatical things. It's all on the page, and obviously it's gratifying when your actor shows up and they've got every syllable committed, and they're not changing things. This is shots from The Graduate, right?
All right. So he murdered a family in 75, but he probably isn't even in the house when they kill. Then comes back almost 20 years later to visit the only survivor, signs in as agent chasing him, and then leaves his only surviving victim feeling much, much better than before he got there.
It's kind of like, why not summarize the movie at this point? You know, you've seen a lot. There's a lot of stuff coming and going. This narrative is starting to twist and turn a little bit, starting to get into unfamiliar waters. You might as well sum it up and then be like, well, that's fucking weird.
Used in magic. Control people.
So he kills them with a doll from somewhere else by what? Remote control?
And there it is. Yep, that's what he does. He kills them with a doll by remote control from somebody else, from somewhere else. It's fun when the solution is put in the middle of the movie just as it is, and
how does Longlegs know your name, Harker?
I don't know, sir.
You know, last week this investigation is ice cold. Then you come on to it, and all of a sudden it's flowing like, I don't know, hot lava.
As soon as he said that, I had to, from then on, call him hot lava. I couldn't call him anything else. I mean, look at this guy, hot lava.
When was the last time you talked to your mother?
Sorry, sir, what does that have to do with the case?
She called on a police report. January 13th, 1974. That's one day before your 9th birthday. That makes your birthday the 14th.
Did?
She did. Gave a description of a trespasser. Tall and pale. Look at me.
Again, if Micah doesn't convey the quality of truly not remembering, it's not a fake. She's not pretending to not remember. She's not lying to him. She's totally lost. She has no recollection of this. She's hit very hard by this revelation that her mother did any of these things.
Yes, sir.
And of course, now we're just in the exaggerated beat of, oh, it's weird to go see your mom, and I don't like going home, and my relationship with my parent is fraught and weird, and it's awkward, and I don't know, there's unspoken stuff from my childhood, and I don't really want to do this, and you know, it's underlined by the fact that the sort of the secret of the movie is held in all of that.
Hi, Mom.
Alicia, I met on a Zoom. Like, invariably, you meet so many people who you end up working with. And it was one of those things, it often happens. You see that there's one person for the part. You talk to a lot of people, you have a lot of Zooms, you meet some people in person, you do anything, and it comes down to there's one person for the part. And I always find that I know that it doesn't take long to know that. When that's the case, it's immediately obvious. And it was obvious in talking to Alicia that this was going to be her. It could only be her. She was extremely. She'd been through a lot of really hard stuff in her life. I'll just be general about it. She'd been through a lot of really hard times when I spoke to her, and she was so available about it and so real about it. She wasn't hiding anything. There was no artifice in the phone call I had with her. She was in no way guarded. She was so open to life and tragedy, really, and hardship, and she was just so open to all of it. This box of things here was made by the props department to show that Harker's mom, kept all of Harker's teeth and hair and fingernail clippings, and so they came back from the Christmas vacation that we had before we went to camera, and they came back and they had all of their friends and family save their nail clippings, and they had this box full of this that was all dated. Every little bag was deliberately dated with an age, and they'd pulled teeth out of dentures, I guess, and put the appropriate aged teeth into the appropriate aged bag with the appropriate aged tag on it. And there were a few times in the edit when we were cutting the movie where we threatened to lose that beat of her pulling out those teeth. And every time we would sort of think about cutting it, I can't do that. I can't do it to the props department. They work too hard on that. It's too beautiful a prop to lose. And when we screened the movie for the crew, and the box made its appearance, you could hear the prop department. Everybody cheered. When you're cutting a movie like this, you spend a lot of time worrying about things like this door, right? Like, people are going to know, oh, it's the door that goes to the basement. That's where Longlegs is. And what are they going to think? Like, are you showing too much of the door? Are you making too much out of it? Or are you making too little out of it? Are you spending too much time on it? Or are you spending too little time on it? What's the audience going to think? What's the audience going to think? We kind of just ultimately landed on the way that we cut it there, is that the audience is going to think that's where she keeps her shotgun.
I bled.
Mom, do you remember my 9th birthday?
You'll see on the television screen in this room, you'll see me. We did this in pre-production in my office one night. We had a VHS camera, and we dressed me up as sort of a kind of a Heaven's Gate-esque space cult talking head weirdo. And
What happened that day?
we got the VHS camera up on the tripod, we drank some beer, and we filmed me talking a bunch of nonsense about the universe. And
It was just the way it sounds, baby girl. But you called
and then there it is.
About a trespasser.
No one ever came to visit us. Not any family. No strangers. No big bad wolves.
When I'm writing anything, it's got to have something that to me is sort of true, and I find more and more that those truths are sort of about my parents, about my upbringing, about my experience as a child, about my experience of my folks and their kind of who they were and how they lived and how they died, and sort of family mythology and the kind of the family narrative and all that is prevalent in a lot of what I do. I don't really know what else I would sort of talk about, I suppose. And this character of the mother who's got to It's kind of got a story that she hides behind. Sort of a, no one ever came to visit us. It's kind of the cover story. It's almost like a mantra that she's used to keep everything cool. There's my son's drawing on the right. My son Tino, he's 4 now. He was 3 when he made that drawing. He's got a few drawings in this movie. He put up on the walls. But the truth in this movie is that a mother can, if she believes that a made up story or a kind of a massaged truth about the family can sort of protect the family, then she's gonna lean into that story. She's gonna make it real. She's gonna make it. She's gonna make that made up story be the truth. And in this case, it's like Ruth Harker had gotten all this way. She was going to be able to keep going. She was going to be able to keep honoring her deal with the devil and keep doing the things that she'd done if all of this kind of uncovering hadn't started to happen.
Excuse me. Who are you and why are you talking to my kid?
Same goes with this. Like, these are the words that were written by me, but performed by Nick Cage like this.
Make me go now. Have to come back. Not once, not twice, but as many times as I like.
I mean, could you imagine a person going up to Nick and being like, what I think you should do is I think you should do it like this. It doesn't sound like something that could ever happen. That has to be generated by all of the things that Nicolas Cage is and has sort of, he's fermented into what he is at this stage, Nicolas Cage. He's become the ultimate. He's become himself, like we all become in our lives. We become more and more our true selves and our sort of expanded selves. And to get Nicolas Cage in this movie at this time in his life and in this time in how he wants to express himself, that's where that relatively insane moment comes from. It's like the accumulation. It's like the culmination of Nicolas Cage up to that moment. And then you just let it out like a valve. This dissolve, you see something in the editing room and you're putting together two things that when you were shooting them, they didn't go together. Like that shot of that doll's head and his face here at the bus stop, they were never together until they were. This stuff reminds me, this is sort of supposed to be My Own Private Idaho, and the movie is supposed to take place in Oregon, and I don't know, Gus Van Sant's movies are, for me, sort of the quintessential Pacific Northwest movies. My Own Private Idaho, taking place in Portland, of course.
I'm gonna need you to get down on the fucking ground.
Scott Nicholson is the stuntman there. He was in an episode of The Twilight Zone that I wrote and directed a few years ago. And he was actually dressed as a mascot, like a Chuck E. Cheese mascot, and we lit him on fire. And he ran around this arena in flames. And when I heard that it was going to be him driving one of the cars, I gave him that line, which was not scripted for the day, but seemed like a fun thing, and there it is in the movie. I had to get up in front of this room of people who come in for the day. You dress them up as FBI agents, and they don't know what they're doing there. No one's like, this is a Nicolas Cage movie, and he's got a full transformation of makeup on, and you're not going to recognize his voice or his thing, or you're being, I have to get up there and say, okay, everybody, so listen, what you're about to see, no one else has seen and no one else is going to see for a long time, so just don't talk about it, don't post about it, don't put your phone, no phones, no nothing. And I don't know what these guys think when all of a sudden we press play on this monitor and it's this. Guy on the left there, I felt like he was laughing. Where every once in a while I felt like he would sort of couldn't contain himself.
It goes on like that for a while.
For how long?
24 minutes.
Hey, everyone out of here. Browning, Harker, you stay. Go. You gotta go.
His luggage was stuffed with notebooks filled with handwriting. Handwriting that matches the letters found at the scene, and suffice to say, it's all heavily satanic. Agent Harker, while the Bureau does appreciate your contribution here, it also puts us in an odd position. So far, there's no physical evidence that Cobble has ever killed anyone. I mean, he worships the devil, that's for sure. But in the United States of America, he's allowed to do that. I'm more concerned about the fact that he knows who you are, Agent Harker. But he can't do anything else about that now that we have him.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, with 7 heads and 10 horns. And on his horns he wore 10 crowns.
I've said it before in other commentaries or whatever, talking about things. Using the Bible, it's kind of, why wouldn't you? There's so much just mad poetry in the Bible. Stuff that kind of makes sense, but really sort of doesn't. And the word choice and the number of horns and the number of heads and the number of crowns and things is also sort of insane. It's kind of too good to be true. It's like, talk about found footage. When you get to a piece of the Bible that works for you. I stood upon the sand of the sea, and the beast rose out of the sea. And I was like, what?
What are we supposed to do about that?
Highly usable.
His accomplice to kill at least one more family. And Cobble's the only one who knows who that is. Cobble? Where is he now?
He's downstairs.
So Michelle Lee here playing Browning, she says, she says, where is he? Well, he's downstairs, right under your feet. Another instance in this movie where the thing that we're holding in our pocket is just said out loud.
Downstairs? Downstairs from where?
Yeah, downstairs from you, under your feet.
Everywheres.
Yeah, right.
You can even call them Mr. Downstairs.
So here, Nick and Micah had never met. Nick on this movie, I don't know how he is on other movies, but on this movie he was very kept to himself. Didn't want to socialize with a lot of people, didn't want to sort of meet a lot of people. He wanted to be in this place of Dale Cobble as much as he could be. And, we talked quite a lot. He was very open with me and communicative with me. But with everybody else, he's quiet and sort of kept to himself, had his own space to be in, and had never met Micah Monroe. Was a big fan of hers. Turns out Nick watches everything, knows every movie, has seen everything, knows everybody, can reference everything. He's encyclopedic that way. It's great. So he was a fan of hers. He knew It Follows. He was all in on Micah Monroe. And in pre-production, it became obvious to me that I could get away with this. I could make it so that they never met until take one. Here, she walks in to see him, and that's take one is the first time that Micah and Nick would ever be in the same space. And even more than that, she didn't know what he looked like. She didn't know what he sounded like. She didn't know what he was going to be doing. And it was everything was just sort of this big surprise to her. And you can see there's a lot of tension for her. There's a lot of nerves. She's great. She's really, I went up to her after take one and she was like, yeah, it's no problem. Right. She's very sort of, confident and strong, but you could tell that it was, I mean, how could it not be, right? How could it not be a really significant and intense experience? You're a young actor. You've done a lot of things, but you kind of haven't been face to face with an icon of this magnitude. It's like being face to face with a planet, right? It's like being face to face with a solar system. It's like being face to face with a dragon. And it's this. And all of a sudden you're doing a 12-minute scene in a room opposite Nicolas Cage and he's fucking this way. There's no way that this is not a significant event in sort of the life path of Micah Monroe as an actor.
You may now collect your gift from the church.
I mean, he's doing all this shit in front of her for the first time. She's never seen any of this.
And the orders from the man down. The Campbell family farmhouse will be so bright and white, you can't miss it.
You're referring to Carrie Ann Camera? What did you say to her at the mental institution?
Oh, but Lee, your house was even whiter when they came missing.
January 13th, 1974, right?
And then my house number 8 was so white. Whiter than a fish's throat. Whiter than gas. I knew that the work we were doing was immaculate.
But your work's over. It's done. And you're going to be in here for the rest of your life.
Yes. I am done.
Before we did this scene, before Micah came in, we had Nick in the interrogation room with us. We shot that whole interrogation thing that you saw in the FBI office on the VHS thing. We shot that with that VHS camera that's in the shot there, and we did it in one long take. We had the interviewer cop in the room with us, and it was me and the DP and the assistant director, and I don't think but maybe the guy who had the clapboard, maybe Chris Merrill was in there with us, but I think that was it. And we sat in there and did the interrogation, and I think we ran like a 20-minute take or something on VHS that Nick just went for it and kind of did the interrogation, and then he sang Happy Birthday, and he sang Crimson and Clover, which was going to be the song in the movie. I decided to change it, but we were all kind of just hunched in this room watching Nick do this unbelievable piece of acting, this kind of marathon of character. Most of this is Nick. There's a dummy. There's a dummy at one point, a very good dummy, I must say. But this was the last thing that we did with Nick this bit was the last thing we did with him before he was done on the movie. And so you at the end when you're done with an actor and it's time for them to be off the movie, you wrap them out. Everybody on the crew gathers around and you say, okay, thanks very much. That's Nicolas Cage, everybody. And, everybody claps. It's like a curtain call kind of. And of course, Nick is standing there with his face just totally destroyed and covered in blood. And, for the first time, because he was officially out of character now, he kind of addressed the whole crew and said what what a pleasure it had been. But it was funny to be standing next to him there, just in this destroyed, bloody face, and all of a sudden it's Nicolas Cage. It had been Dale Cobble for the last 2 weeks, and only Dale Cobble. And then he's Nick. I have to say I'm happy with the way that the narrative unfolds and unfolded with this picture, and the way we ended up sort of cutting it in the editing room, where it's like the movie begins now, right? Like this is the beginning of the stuff. And it's hard when you're writing, you're generating, you're creating, you're directing, you're crafting, you're outlining, you're kind of putting all the planning and trying to put a fucking movie together. And this feeling of like, shit, I'm going to get towards the end and there's just not going to be enough. I'm going to get to a certain place and it's just going to be kind of coasting downhill until it's over. There's going to be no surprises, no rising action. Like that's the hardest part. The hardest part is saying that the last kind of quarter of the movie is going to be the best part of the movie. That's what you're always going for. It's what everybody's trying for. It's so hard to do. So many movies are great for 30 minutes. God, how many movies are great for 30 minutes? But I felt so kind of just relieved that the last bit of this movie was a surprise. The amount of times we cut and recut this sequence, trying to figure, well, is it best if she's in the rear view? If she moves when the camera first cuts to her, is she already moving? Does she enter the thing? Does she appear here? Where does she appear? I think we got it right. There's the devil. This bit, totally faked. There's no shotgun. It doesn't fire anything. It's just the actor moving her hand and a thing going off inside the car and somebody shaking it from behind. It was take one, and somehow Alicia Witt faking the action of a shotgun, the guy inside the car setting off the explosive thing, the people in the back of the car shaking it, all happened in this perfect, in this like concert. It's perfect.
Mom! Put the gun down! What is that thing?
Yeah, good question.
You mean Cobble. But
Originally scripted and originally shot, this dialogue between Harker and her mom goes on forever. So much talk, so much exposition, so much here's what happened, so much this is what I'm doing, so much about everything. And you find a way to make it as brief as that, and then you find a better way to tell everything needs to be told. I mean, this quality of story time here is not really the way it was written in the script. And it's funny because somebody can read in a script really well. And you hear about this all the time, where it's like 3 versions of the movie, right? There's what you write, there's what you shoot, and then there's how you cut it. And they kind of don't have anything to do with each other. Those 3 things are, once you're done with one stage, you know, you can kind of never return to that previous stage. It is the thing that it is now. And it really is true. A script can really read great and make a lot of sense and flow and not seem long or fat or stupid or tedious. And then you shoot it and you look at it in the editing room and you're like, well, this can't look at this. Can't show it this way. Can't do. The script was wrong. The script was crazy. The script was bad.
A man did come. A doll maker.
Just dropping off an early birthday gift. A gift from the church.
The doll maker started his work.
But so anyway, you get to a point sometimes in editing the movie where the script is, I don't want to say no longer true, but it's almost like no longer applicable because it's not that anymore. It's this stuff. And the ideas that you're trying to get across are the same ideas. Now it just kind of becomes this puzzle of, well, how do I get those ideas across given what I've got? Which is not the script, but it's the footage. And like I said, if this is about a mother who kind of has a cover story, then positioning everything we needed to know as a story became the right way to do it. Story time, we called it.
So her mother begged for the little girl's life to be spared. In exchange, she would have to help him. Yeah. She had once been a nurse. Now her work would be murdering families. And so it went like this. Knock, knock, knock on the farmhouse door. A nice lady on the Bible. Minnie, congratulations, you've won. A gift from the church. All her mother had to do was get it inside.
I just like the idea also of this weird notion of like, if someone comes to your door, if you're kind of a God-fearing religious family and someone comes to the door and they're like, I got something for you, it's from the church, you won. I don't know, it's a sort of maybe a weird thing to say, but it seems to me that 9 out of 10 people in that situation would say, oh, come on in, what do you got?
That was the deal that she made.
So with this bit here, when we shot this of Harker waking up in Longlegs' bed with his zebra print pillowcases, the image actually goes the other way. So she's facing right. She's facing left here in the movie, but she's actually facing right when we shot it. Because I ended the story time there with Ruth and young Lee looking that way, I wanted to flip it over. And so by flipping over this shot to have her face the same direction, you get this. Which, of course, was not how we shot it. We shot it right side up because she was flipped to the other side. So essentially, everything flips. But then you end up with a great upside down shot, which says the thing you're trying to say. Oh, her world is upside down. I mean, I know it sounds corny when you diminish it like that in a director's commentary, but I think at that point in the picture when everything really is turned on its head, as it were, and she's about to come into this revelation of, oh, Uh-huh. It's under my mom's house. The upside down shot is exactly the right thing, and I didn't know that until I flipped the other part of the shot to match the shot preceding it, and I didn't know that until I cut the image.
Yeah.
Likewise here, we shot it, she goes to the phone to try to make a call out, and hears that it's dead on the other side. But as we were going through the scene again and again and again and again, my editor said, well, what if it's ringing? What if the phone's ringing instead of she goes to make a call? What if she goes to answer the call? And it's one of these moments where the editor sees something in the footage that it just isn't there. We just didn't do it that way. But as soon as he said, what if it's ringing, it opened up that whole other sort of layer of things. It's the devil calling her to remind her to go to the birthday party where the biggest mess of all is going to happen. I wanted to use this song from Disney's Alice in Wonderland, a very happy unbirthday to you. But you can't use anything that Disney owns.
It's great. Yeah, in fact, you're here just in time because Miss Ruby just started opening her presents.
Great actress here, Carmel. She, again, you can't rehearse things. So you get there on the day of the day and you just start kind of going. And our first impression of how Mrs. Carter would be here was like kind of stoned, right? Kind of like super weirded out. But then it was like, well, no, what if she's just normal?
I'm so sorry I've forgotten your name. I'm a terrible, terrible, terrible hostess.
Isn't it weirder if she's just kind of going through the motions as if nothing's wrong? Like she can't see that anything's wrong. It's like everything's fine. In cutting this scene too, it was as we shot it, Harker comes in and she does it, but she sits down. There's a chair over there behind those balloons where she actually sits for 80% of the scene. She's sitting. And it got to the point where we were cutting it, I was like, she's not going to sit down. Even if he tells her to sit down like that, she's never going to sit down. It's totally the wrong thing. It's weird. So half of the footage that we spent so much time and effort shooting, we couldn't even use it. Not only that, but we'd had to find ways to keep her standing the whole time. And we did.
Just like I've always done.
But that's sort of the labor of love that's required in cutting a movie. It's like throwing out these huge things that you've done, all this time and energy spent on something that's just wrong and will never be seen again. Like no one will ever see Harker sit down in that room.
And so I'll do it again.
One of the fun things in this movie for me was I always applied the blood to Ruth Harker. Whenever we did a bloody thing on the nun, I always went out there with the paintbrush and spattered the nun. That shot we got on a rare day when you have too much time. All of a sudden, you've shot everything that you're supposed to shoot on a day, and the sun is going down, the light is perfect, your character's in costume, you've got a blood, and you're just like able to shoot extra footage, which never happens. The producers and I call it getting dreamy. It's what David Lynch, when even he complains about not having enough time on a set, he complains there's not enough time to get dreamy. So when you're on a movie that's, tightly budgeted and tightly scheduled, and all of a sudden you've got an opportunity to get dreamy, it's pretty great. We went through a lot of articulations about this last doll bit. She used to turn her head, her eyes turned red. We used to go into the eye. We went into a staircase that went down to hell, a thing. So many versions of how this plays out. And it really, they were all bullshit. And they all felt like bullshit. And when we screened it in Burbank for an audience, the audience called bullshit on the ending. And they were right. Of course they were right. They're the audience. So we went back and we found that this was much more satisfying way to go. Why not use one of our strongest things? Nicolas Cage. He can take us out of the picture. Well, that's more or less what I've got to say about the movie for now. And I hope you enjoyed watching this. I suspect if you've bothered to go this far with me, you've seen the movie and liked the movie enough. Oh, just when you thought we'd run out of things that we've stolen from other iconic serial killer movies, the backwards crawl, the top to bottom crawl is 7, of course. I don't know why more movies don't. Maybe they do. Maybe I should see more movies to see what's being stolen. I don't think there's should be any shame or embarrassment or even self-consciousness around borrowing or stealing or referencing or quoting. It's all one big mess. We're all just trying to get close to the source. As long as you're stealing from the good stuff, I don't see anything wrong with that.